Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. I'm Dustin Cron, the founder of the Center for Global Muslim Life. It's a blessing to be here with you all on one of my favorite discussions of this entire conference, this entire forum about the best global Muslim artists. This was a hard one to choose from because there's so much incredible art happening in the Muslim community, and everyone on this list are true game changers and people that are changing narratives with their level of work. The way that we decided this category with our jury is they had to be people who were doing art in multiple different forms, and really, like, the scale, it doesn't matter as much the scale, but it matters the beauty of the art, the excellence of the art. And so just to run down the list real quick, Riz Ahmed, definitely one of the global artists of the year, period. He had two incredible films that came out, both like super personal, both dealing with issues of disability. He had his incredible film, The Long Goodbye, talking about how he's breaking up with Britain and the history of colonialism. He just did this really incredible live stream from San Francisco. There was also a performance piece with that. Mahershala Ali, he produced film, and of course he produced this really amazing documentary about young about an elementary school in Oakland where they have this competition every year around we're giving speeches, and that was super beautiful. Less people have probably seen that than have seen Rami, and I thought his depiction of Sheikh Ali in Rami was beautiful. Yasin Bey this year had his album come out at a museum in Brooklyn that you had to go to the museum to even listen to the album, and then he curated an exhibit of paintings with the album, and then he also had a line of perfume come out with an Argentinian perfumery that's amazing. Narcy had his book Text Messages come out this year. He also had a new album drop, and just always, and then directing his own videos like he does with every single one of his album releases. And he did this deep fake hip hop video that's really, really incredible called Thoughts and Prayers. Incredible song, incredible video that you all should watch. El Cid, not only did he do, and these are in alphabetical order, El Cid had this amazing installation in the middle of the desert in Saudi Arabia. And then he did all of the work that he does on canvas throughout the year. And then at the end of the year, he actually did this dinner in Dubai where he was cooking and plating and with his own style. El Cid could probably be, most of these artists would be on this list like every year, but El Cid definitely. And then Amir Suleiman, like one of the greats, the true greats, probably one of the greatest living poets on the planet. We pray that Allah continues to give him tawfiq, and especially with this piece he's been working on about the Prophet ﷺ for a really long time. We miss running into him in Oakland. And his short film is absolutely stunning. One of the most, we named it the top short film of the year. Powerful, powerful piece, an incredible piece of poetry. And then our brother Tariq Toure, who's with us tonight, had, as we'll talk about, a children's book, poetry, incredible, multi-layered, multi-hyphenated video director now, and directed a number of really beautiful videos. And then G. Willow Wilson had a best-selling book that came out, and then also was writing for like Star Wars and all these other comics as well. And so, mashallah, tons of people doing super incredible work. We wanted to invite in Tariq Toure. Assalamu alaikum.
Like salam, I'm looking behind me to make sure my girls don't run in here, man. So you're
Yeah,
fine.
well, it would be all good if they did. So, but yeah, welcome and thank you, and thank you for all the work you've done this year. Talk us, first reflect on this list, and congratulations for being on it. I think it's well deserved. I think that this group are people at the core changing narratives about Muslims in so many different ways. There's, of course, we could have had more people on the list, but I would say this is the top tier.
Mm.
So, mashallah, yeah. Any reflections?
Yeah, well, I just want to first ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to continue to inspire these folks that I'm humbled to be a part of any any list, including the renowned people and the people who've put in immense work to further art that forces us to reflect on a lot of the disparities that go on and a lot of the beauty that's within this world, and also our akhirah. So these artists have done that. They've done it at a high level. So I'm humbled by that. I guess first reflecting on Riz Ahmed and his work regarding Brexit. A lot of times, I think Americans, we can sort of become self-centered and not realize that a lot of the issues, maybe like xenophobia, things of that nature, that affect people all across the board. And to have somebody put together a body of work within this year that speaks to that eloquently is not just a blessing for the Muslim community, but it's a blessing for the wider world. Um, I'll jump to El Cid. I remember one of my coworkers who is a really great, he's an amazing graphic designer, just artist, period. His name is Ali Hussein. And I remember him talking for just hours at end about how great this guy El Cid is. And then he showed me some of his work, some of his installations. And first of all, I was just surprised that there are human beings like that can create at that level, especially with stretching calligraphy into different bounds. Um, was intriguing, and I'm just happy to see him on this list. Yassine Bey, really goes without saying. He probably was one. It was KRS One, and then it was Yassine Bey, who I was introduced to by my older brothers as to what does MCing supposed to look like. So it's a blessing to see them on that list too. And then Mahershala, I mean, really just goes without saying. He's been in the game for a long time, putting in work, and his name is literally on everything, it seems. And Amir Suleiman, one of the first poets that I saw myself, where I realized that this is something that I would want to be engaged in, this tradition, this continuum of people who put together words that move hearts and minds. And his short film, as I said before, I waited a week and a half to watch it because I wanted to make sure I gave it its proper due. And it's so many things within it that speak to the experience that I know well here, and that many Black folks around the country and around the world are feeling and and have felt. So it's a blessing, Sister G. Willow Wilson, as well, somebody who comes to mind that I've heard people speak highly of before. If I missed anybody, please forgive me. But just as really, it's a blessing just to even be mentioned.
Yeah, and like I said, it's well deserved. So let's talk about your year as an artist. I think that I've been reflecting nonstop with the difficulties we've had as a personally as a family. Uh, you know, but at the same time, the great blessings and openings. And so we nonstop this year. I've thought of the ayats of the Quran talking about with hardship comes ease, and I think we've experienced both of those things. So reflect on your year as an artist and kind of take us through some of the different projects you worked on, and I can show them as you talk.
Okay. Well, number one, um, I think the uncertainty that was brought on by the pandemic, and that still has people just uncertain. The sort of the tragic outcomes that have come about from the pandemic force everybody at least to have to begin to reflect a lot more. And for an artist, for myself, I mean, that's our ammunition, reflection, sort of like being I think the word is ruminative about what you've experienced, what you're presently going through, and what the future may look like. And for me, when we had to sort of like go and be home and couldn't be anywhere, I'm real social myself to a degree. Let me say that, to a degree, but it forced me to be home a lot. a lot more home with my family, and it forced me to start to see where some boundaries and some barriers that I could break within myself, within my art, and what did I really want to speak and say through my work throughout this time. And a lot of it came about very introspective pieces, very spiritually aligned pieces, and very family aligned pieces. So it was a blessing just to be able to to be able to do that. I know a lot of people, they may not have been able to get within their creative home, within themselves.
Yeah, so talk. Let's start first with one of your video pieces. I think the video, of course, Pete. You're known probably first and foremost as a poet, and then now also as a filmmaker tied to some of your poetry videos. So let's watch first this piece, "The Call," and then you can reflect on kind of what this video is.
Hollowed hearts echo, then soften to the call. Through the vast meadows, our souls begin to crawl. Just as the rose petals, our ending is a fall, prostrate to the magnificent one who sent us off, with a single fraction of light within us all, as our fears fold into the night with each dawn, clear openings in sight, with new resolve, fearing we won't live this right after all. And for the lowly seekers peering at the pendulum swings, watching the days pass for a mere moment to bring hearts in tune with the infinite, he who holds up the wings, he who crafts the kingdoms and gives kingdoms to kings, master molder of the clock that would cling, is daily call to arms for those who forgot to reclaim, for every soulless lost that forgot to remain, clenched upon the rope within every knot is a chain, an interlocking code for both sullen and sane. We enter our abode to bleach and blot out the stains, letting the sin soak to harvest the crop from the grain. Every vibration of reckoning, a heaven-sent testament, sent solely to sink solace into the hearts of breast of men. And it can't be more evident and held in higher reverence. Without the echo of the unseen, the warriors wander weaponless. Since the Habasha placed the house beneath his regal feet and summoned humanity out of his mouth for us to meet. At the juncture of salvation and soul, and we repeat that God is greater than any of those that disbelieve, that our prophet could have chose any of those to plant the seed, but the son of the enslaved rose to mention he. Until the end of time, this holy symphony will bring man, woman, and child in droves to this decree.
It's beautiful.
Thank you, thank you.
Is it a? It's almost like a reflection on Adhan. Talk to us about the piece and kind of what your inspiration was.
Mm. Um, Alhamdulillah. So I heard this brother named Dawood call the Adhan maybe about like a year or 2 years ago. I think he's out of Ohio, Cleveland, to be exact. And I was like, is he calling the Adhan in like blues key or something like that? I hear Mississippi in there. I hear backwater. And one of the things that I've been reflecting on is that even the way some of our African American elders recite the Quran, maybe in another generation or generation after that, we we won't we won't be able to hear that anymore. And so the first thought for me was, what is a way that I can use my talent as a poet to archive that sound, that particular sound? And alhamdulillah, I was able to get the clip from it. And hold on one second. No, I'm talking to somebody. I know. Um, so yeah, so I went ahead and I went ahead and found the clip, and then once I was done writing the poem, I thought a little bit more deeply in that here you have African Americans saying the adhan, calling the adhan in a blues key, and then reflecting on the story of Bilal, radiallahu anhu, and sort of how does this path go from him even being referenced, as a black crow before he's about to call the adhan, and then now descendants of people enslaved are now saying this adhan here in the 2000s, and then beyond that, African Americans, particularly even Malcolm X, being responsible for being one of the uh, most pronounced da'is that we've had, in the last 100 or so years. All that correlating, I thought it would be important to archive that within a film, a poem, and just a recitation. So,
I mean, mashallah, it's super beautiful, and I think that shows how multi-layered it is. Of course, in the book, I think Sylviane Diouf writes about this a little bit in Servants of Allah. I know she talked about it at a talk she gave at Zaytuna that I was at, that the blues actually has its roots, right, in Adhan. Um, and then even we were talking to Sheikh Mendez today, and he was talking about how he has a clock that has like 2,000 adhans on it, and it doesn't have one adhan from Africa, right? Let alone an African American version of the adhan. So, and I think that this is a difficult thing, that within the digital media space, it's like somehow with the globalization of media and even like the popularization of certain recitation styles of Quran, even like a lot of
mm,
Muslims don't even know there's multiple types of recitation of
yeah,
Quran, let alone the multiple adhan styles.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's one of the things is that we applaud people who bring those things to light because they need to be brought to light. As an artist, it is literally my job and our job, our responsibility. I don't say job, but our responsibility to create with those things in mind out of love. And that's a more for me sincere driver, because I could go at people who sort of overlook us all the time. But my purpose is much much better served creating forms of expression like that, because there are going to be parts within it that speak to everybody, but there's a lot within that speaks to the home and the heart of African American Muslims and Black Muslims, and that's one of the largest purposes of it.
No, and like you said, and I think that it's Malcolm, it's Muhammad Ali, and the Black Muslim community, hip hop being some of the greatest dais in the history of in the last 100 plus years. And if they were in other parts of the world, they would be called awliya,
Mm,
right? They'd be called walis. They'd be called friends of Allah, because who else
mm,
has guided millions of people to Islam, literally, in the last
mm,
100 plus years? There's a few people, but most
mm.
people don't know their name.
No.
Yeah, mashallah. So thank you for that. And then I know The other film, it's called Dear Beloved, right? About your son, and I think that so much beauty. Talk about some of the other film work you did this year as well.
Yeah. So I wrote Dear Beloved Son um, after Imam Ghazali's his short treatise when he's writing letters to a student. Your student has some questions about the path, what he should be seeking, how he should be seeking it. What is knowledge of Allah, and what should he be trying to get out of his studies, and what type of, I guess, aspirant should he become. And Imam Ghazali is talking to a student, and I thought one of the best ways I could probably translate that is to write some bars down for my own son, because I have two daughters, but I have a son that's 1 years old now, and I was trying my best to impart some wisdom to him. And most of the poem is a discussion on the nafs, and the manifestations that happen when you feed it, and the troubles that men go through when they feed that fire, and how much you have to be a governor of your nafs. And if there was anything that I would want to leave to him and to my children, period, before I pass, if I'm no longer here, is that, if you conquer your nafs, you conquer everything. And I think a lot of what Imam Ghazali was speaking to in Ya Ayyuhal Walad was about that, was about, submitting yourself to Allah completely and wholly, so that you can become a real person. And hopefully, he takes from that, and he works to becoming a real person in submission to Allah, and in service to humanity.
Yeah, mashallah. Beautiful. And I think we all can learn from that and reflect on it with our own children as well. And then talk about the paintings that are behind you. I know you said you did those this year. Talk about some of your creative process there. I think they look very much like pieces that could be in galleries somewhere in the world, inshallah, in the future.
Inshallah, inshallah. So I want to say about 2 months into quarantine, I I wrote a lot of poems, I wrote a lot of work, and I got to this point where it's like I need to do something else. I need to try something else out. And I started, maybe Michaels was reading my Google searches or something like that, but I started getting ads from like Michaels or something, and different places, Blick Art Materials. And I was like, I'm gonna go ahead and get some canvases, and see what I can do. And so the first couple of pieces I got to actually put together, I really just wasn't satisfied with them, because I felt like they weren't within the line of how my, how what I enjoy from art. Clearly I like line, um, I like symmetry, and so I wanted to start with something very basic that I could communicate sort of where I was at with my art journey and my painting journey. And I started just finding whatever color spoke to me, um, and I started to begin putting together pieces that just feature very basic line, and also trying to incorporate Allah in some of them. So, well, that one here has Allah in a certain way, and that one behind me has Allah in a certain way, and then I have another one that's like right down there. That's a little bit more calligraphy style, but it was just me, just really learning and just taking the time. And I felt like, now at this point, alhamdulillah, whenever I put a pen to a piece of paper, there's an expectation, from folks or something like that. I wanted to put myself in a medium where I could free fall and have to build a parachute on the way down. And so since then, I've been able to create, um, and I've had some people inquire about pieces, and it's been, it's been a healthy thing to do, and it was therapeutic most of all. I think most of all it was therapeutic because it was a slow process, and I was like really, really learning something new again. And so I've been, into graphic design for a while, but never, um, paintbrush to canvas. So it's been a blessing just to get the reception that I've gotten from it. Aside from writing, aside from putting together, short films, um, being able to paint now is it's another thing that's in the arsenal that I want to perfect.
And then talk to us about the children's book. I know is super that, and that's part of the reason why we included you is moving in all kinds of new directions.
Um, so number one, the beautiful illustration that you see here with this young boy and his father was done by a sister named Anika Sabri, and she's very significant because she is like one of the pioneers of like Black Muslim art scene in New York. And I got in contact with her um, early during the year, and I told her that I had a manuscript. I told her I had a poem about a young kid learning about how his dollar is spent in his community. And I told her, I said, look, this got to be what we all know and knew growing up in like a Black Muslim neighborhood, Black Muslim ass shit around us, those type of parts. And maybe after like two conversations with her, I knew she would be the one to produce David's Dollar. And so David's Dollar features uh, a young kid named David who gets a dollar from his allowance, and then he spends that dollar on some candy, and then afterwards he asks his father a critical question. He says, Daddy, where's my dollar go? And then his father takes him around to all the different businesses that it goes. It has a lot of allusions to historic facts. There's a place called Tulsa Street. There's a business called Manster's Blends. There's a business called Madam C's Hair Shop. There's a lot of things in there that can be conversation pieces, but most of all, David at the very end uh, gives the dollar back after it circulates to his community. He gives it in sadaqah at the masjid towards a family who had their house burned down. And so it teaches a holistic and a community responsibility piece with it as well. And the reception from it has been tremendous. And so this is my first venture into a children's book, and I thought this would be the proper one to begin that journey with, because I've already written two poetry collections.
Yeah, and we should mention that it also was awarded for best global Muslim children's book. So, mashallah, and I think it sold out the first run, right? And then you restocked
Yeah,
on.
yeah, we sold out. Maybe it sold out within a week and a half or something like that. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, it did very well. Um, and I guess lastly, what I would say is that I would like I would like just myself and my representation here to be for people. You can there's a lot we can bootstrap with our work. There's a lot we can bootstrap. There's a lot of my wife running and holding the camera or helping me out here and there, and we should try to look around at the resources that are right here with us to produce art. And so everything you see that I produce has been bootstrapped. And not pull yourself out by your bootstrap. I don't, that doesn't fly with me. But just in work with what you have, and see how far you can push the needle, until you need help. And so I hope for anybody out there who's trying to figure it out right now, and you may be thinking like something's gonna come out the sky for somebody to fund or put towards your work, that may not happen, but you still should try to get that expression out of you. And I believe my story is a testimony to that.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think that, and that's what's unique, right? Is that, and that's what these conferences, these the work that we've been doing this year as well. A lot of it is just bootstrapping that we say. We also have a digital media academy that I launched this year, and within that course, that's what we're literally telling people and organizations is what your in startup world they call it the MVP, the minimal viable product. How do you put out the minimal thing in the world to test your audience, to begin to build your audience, and then Allah knows, right? Like people like
Mm.
Amir, Riz, like El Seed. If you could go through their Instagram and see the transformation just over a few years, let alone over like the last decade. I mean, we all remember the first time we heard Mos Def. We all remember, the first time we heard Black Star. And you think about and it's one of the greatest rap albums of all time. But I mean, still, like the way the art has changed over the years, and all none of that would happen without that belief in the self and just putting your own money into your art and just grinding. So I think that that's a really beautiful message of yeah, not pulling ourselves up by our bootstraps, but believe in
That,
ourselves and bootstrap our work, get it out into the world, and keep growing. So reflect on what's next for you. Like what are your prayers for 2021? What's next?
uh, continuing to write, um, continuing to write, learn how to paint a lot better, and learn how to put together film a lot better. I think those are the things that are going to sort of like just be on a revolving basis of trying to perfect. Um, and then prayerfully, we can produce some more short films. We can produce some more poetry. I might do some more long form essay stuff as the year goes on. I'll take David on a little bit more journeys in the future about just the ethical part of money and transactions, because I feel like there's a lot of lessons we can teach the wider public as Muslims about money, about business, things of that nature. But beyond that, next year, what in January, I'll be launching the full line of Greater Than a Sword paper products, and I will have produced our first paper journal. So folks, look out for that. It's super high quality. Folks are already writing. You're already using what is it called? Moleskin. I've used Moleskin, and I thought to myself, we need a high quality produced paper product that isn't hard on the pockets, produced for us by us. And so you'll find that announced in the new year, and we'll move forward from there. We'll push forward, and I really don't. Lastly, I'll say is like I don't sort of look at things as, oh, well, in March this is going to be done. My creative process is a constant sort of thing. It's a function. It's not sort of like, oh, you might have things charted that you want to actually get done, but I've worked now to a point where this is just like me breathing, and that's the love that I have for it. Is that it's not sort of going to be project based. It's just I'm a writer, so I'm going to be writing, and inshallah I'm a painter, so I'll be trying to paint more, and then projects come along through the inspiration.
Yeah, one of my favorite art galleries in the world is this place called Ilham Arts in Kuala
Mm.
Lumpur, Malaysia. And I didn't know what the word Ilham meant until I don't speak Arabic. I know enough
Oh
Arabic
yeah.
terms for my reading, but this term Ilham, right? The inspiration, the divine inspiration that Allah puts within us, and I think that to me is so much what this creative journey and process is like, and it's in these ecosystems. And I also wanted to thank you for being someone, within that ecosystem to build with throughout this year and the film festival and everything. I think we as artists have to support each other and build each other up to be able to take things to the next level. So yeah, thank you for all the love and much respect, and may Allah continue to inspire your heart and your family and your work. I mean, inshallah.
I mean, same for same for uh, what you all are doing. we might complain a lot about not getting like shout outs from these other places, but we have to start building things that honor our own. And like, yeah, you stop just begging for love from places that already have stated inherently and explicitly that it's not going to be there. So thank you all for what you're doing, and I'm honored to be a part.
Yeah, of course. No, and that's it, right? It's why would they recognize us if we're not even within their worldview? And the only way they recognize us is if we are in their worldview, which in many cases is against our own worldview. So
Yeah,
we have to create spaces to show love for ourselves. And inshallah, this is a beautiful collection of people from all around the world who've done that this year. And that's to me what gives me so much hope. Like here is all this beauty that the Muslim community has produced in the midst of all this difficulty, all this pain. So, mashallah. Thank you for being an example of that. Much love
absolutely,
and respect.
absolutely.
Assalamu alaikum.
Excellent.